So, despite all the hype, all the nostalgia, and everything else we had going into Modern Warfare, the game has already had a lot of ups and downs for only being a month old. We've seen some cool things added in with a few new maps, some new modes, and even some new Spec Ops missions. However, at the same time, the sheer amount of things that this game feels like it needs that have either been overlooked or just ignored up until this point is no small list either. And after this previous patch was teased as the big update, and in all reality all it turned out to be was a lengthy list of bug fixes, there's been even more of a distaste for the game coming from the community. So today I wanted to sit down and break down the major problems that need addressed with the game. I want to do this in a way that's not so much complaining, and instead more so offering productive solutions while also pointing out some of the major flaws that are really holding back the title, in the off chance that maybe a dev sees this video and we can make a positive impact on the game. So by the end of it, if you do agree with what I bring up, feel free to share the video around by dropping a like on it. Oh, and of course, if you are new here, hey, hi, how you doing? I am always covering the latest news and intel within the world of Call of Duty, so be sure to subscribe with your notifications turned on if you do want to stay up to date with all of that. And now let's get into the major problems that honestly are keeping Modern Warfare from reaching its ultimate potential. Above all, I think we first have to talk about everybody's favorite, skill-based matchmaking. Now, if you don't know, basically skill-based matchmaking factors in your recent performance as the main factor in determining your lobbies, but there is also a bit of a level factor and a very minor stat factor in there as well, at least from my understanding. In short, skill-based matchmaking, or a variation of it, is in the game according to exclusive Ace and Drifters testing, which is the most credible thing that we have at this point. And just to be completely blunt here, skill-based matchmaking in a public match setting does not work. We are apparently going to have a ranked playlist coming to the game in the future, and if that's the case, then there especially is no need for ranked matchmaking in public lobbies. I'm not exactly sure where I saw this the other day, but honestly I love the analogy. Basically, some may argue that skill-based matchmaking is better for newer or casual players, which, to an extent, yes, I agree, brand new players who are hopping on for the very first time should be protected for a few games, but after that it should be a normal matchmaking system. Because, much like in baseball, you are not going to learn to hit a fastball or a curveball by hitting a ball off of a tee every single day. And what skill-based matchmaking does is allow those lower skilled players to hit off a tee every single day, whereas all the better players are just throwing fastballs at each other in a very painful match of dodgeball. Obviously, it's not a perfect one-for-one analogy, but I did really like that. Like I said, I'm not sure where exactly I saw that, if it was on Twitter or in the comments or somewhere else, but if you're the one who made that analogy, shout out to you, because I thought it was a pretty good one. You know, most of us had to get better in the past by getting stomped here and there. I, for one, know I was not good at the game when I first started way back in MW2, but I progressively had to test my skills against better players to really improve my gameplay. And eventually, I did. And that's really how I think Call of Duty should play. SBMM kind of takes the fun out of grinding the game as a better player, and it offers no real solution to newer or lesser skilled players either, because ultimately they're never really going to improve by staying in that low tier brackets. So in turn, my solution here is to just make matchmaking prioritize connection at all times, and leave the level, elo, and whatever other stat-based factors there may be to the ranked playlist that's coming soon. I do also want to mention before everyone jumps on the
"Man, Infinity Ward sucks, remove SBMM"
train, Infinity Ward doesn't actually handle the matchmaking from my understanding. That is instead Demonware, who is contracted by Activision as a third-party company. So we can't really be flaming IW for something that they can't necessarily control. Next up, another major problem that has become more and more apparent since the game launched is communication. Now, I'm not saying that Infinity Ward is just bad at communicating, because frankly, I don't think they are. They have plenty of employees like Ashton, Joe, David, and Joel who are all constantly responding to posts on social media. But at the same time, their general communication as a studio and their lack of response to certain topics is concerning to say the least. Pre-launch, it seemed like IW was going to be extremely vocal and transparent this year, and then after the game released, all that transparency seemed to slow down big time. The devs are really active when it comes to responding to different posts about bugs and quality of life issues, but then when it comes to things like game modes coming, maps not feeling super smooth, weapons being overpowered or overused, perks and field upgrades not necessarily being in the most ideal spots, and all sorts of things like that, the communication there has been a little lackluster. Something that I personally would love to see is another roadmap. This is something that we saw all throughout Black Ops 4 with its operations, and even pre-launch with MW, we had a reveal and announcement roadmap for the game too. So having something like a content and major update-oriented roadmap could really help a lot when it comes to keeping the community informed of what's to come. Knowing that in early December we'll be seeing a major weapon tuning pass, or in late December we'll be seeing a content overhaul, could be a major help in appeasing the community's general distaste that is quite apparent at the moment. Now, something else that has been a wildly hot topic as of late is the spawns, as the 1.09 update seemed to break them even more, as now you'll occasionally spawn right where you last died in the middle of the air, which, well, based off of that description alone, you can see how that would be a problem. But besides that, the spawns still seem either incredibly unpredictable or way too predictable, and there's really no medium ground on most maps. There are certain maps where you can be spawn trapped for 10 minutes straight, and others where you're just playing a massive game of cat and mouse because the spawns flip so much. Other times you'll spawn directly into gunfire and all sorts of other precarious positions like that. So the spawns should definitely be a top priority when it comes to things that need attention. We've also got to touch on Spec Ops because, well, for a mode that was so heavily hyped up and anticipated pre-launch, it's kind of a disaster. Don't get me wrong, I thought the mode was pretty fun at its core when I was just goofing around with my friends, but between the countless bugs, the poor stability, and the lack of rewards that the mode actually offers, it is a complete train wreck in its current state, which honestly is a huge bummer to see. On top of that, certain modes in this game have a worse tick rate for the servers than others, which is kind of an odd approach. Shout out to Battle Nonsense for really breaking this down. This is far more advanced stuff than even I can understand on a deeper level, but in short, the server tick rates vary from mode to mode. In most standard modes, including 6v6, gunfight, and even 10v10, the tick rates are pretty standard, right around 60. But then in Ground War, they are way lower, and in custom matches, they're even worse than that, which means the connection and overall gameplay experience isn't going to be as good in those modes as it would compared to the standard ones with the better server optimization. So at the very least, I would like to see that mentioned and addressed by the studio, just to see if they are working on improving that, or if that's just going to be what we're stuck with for the year, which I certainly hope is not the case. Then, finally, the last major problem that I think needs addressing is the amount of bugs and other fundamental issues that the game still has, despite it being about a month old, multiple years into development, and also just a AAA title at the end of the day. I mean, your kill streaks can change in the middle of a game randomly, camo tracking and challenge tracking is all sorts of screwed up, there's certain officer challenges that literally will not progress, and get this, you can't even unlock Damascus camo even if you have platinum unlocked on every weapon class, because the very final challenge that you need to unlock it, whatever that may be, doesn't track when you are one away. I know my buddy Sean E. Dogs should technically have Damascus camo right now, however his final long shot that he needs just straight up will not track. To me, things like that should not be present in a game like this that is developed by a studio that has multiple years of experience making games on this level. I don't know if it's just oversights or bugs that they're not used to seeing, but fundamentally, this game has a lot of problems that seriously lower the quality of life all around. So, with all of that being said, those are the major problems in Modern Warfare that I feel like need to be addressed in order to help the game's current state improve. Truthfully, I do think this title has the potential to be one of the best Call of Duty games of all time. It is certainly the most ambitious in many respects, but these things that we've discussed here today, I feel like are the major hindrances and drawbacks that are keeping the game from ultimately being way better. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated. It does help share it around, and perhaps on an off chance a dev could see this, maybe we can actually make a positive impact on the game. Of course, if you guys are new here and you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, including all the latest news and intel, updates and leaks, and pretty much everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know when I post a new video. As always, if you would like to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on all G Fuel, Control Freak, and Respawn products. You can find all of those links listed down in the description below, and once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.